I recently finished listening to the Audible version of The Emperor's Legion. It was a great book. I did want to read this book, the paperback copy, but I couldn't find it anywhere. The only available copies cost a ridiculous amount of money on Amazon. You have to buy them used, and if you want to buy a hardback copy, it was like $60 or something, which I think is kind of ridiculous for a 300-page book. Overall, though, the book was fantastic. So this book takes place 10,000 years after the Horus Heresy. And I've read quite a few 40k books, but I haven't finished the Horus Heresy by any means, and I definitely haven't gotten through all of the Siege of Terra books. So I felt like there were a couple plot gaps here and there for me, but it really wasn't an issue as far as like getting through the book. I've read enough lore in and around this story where I was able to make sense of what was going on. And overall, it was just really nice to get a deep dive on the state of Terra after the Horus Heresy. I feel like there's not a lot of books that take place on Terra. We're always reading about Terra and how cool it is and what a great environment it is. But there's not a lot of books that are set on this world, on this like giant hive world with things that you just can't even imagine. It's really just quite the set piece to go through. And I think as you kind of see it through each of these three characters, you get so many different glimpses of like how Terra is just like, at one point it's a beautiful and magnificent place, but it's also kind of like terrible and authoritarian, and it sounds pretty miserable for anybody who's not like an Astartes or a High Lord or somebody with a ton of money or any sort of position of power. It just sounds miserable. And I think that's like what most of 40k is about, is the fact that you have like all of this incredible power, but at the end of the day, the humans, like the regular humans, live pretty much in misery. So I thought that it was interesting we got more details regarding Terra in that matter. So the Emperor's Legion focuses on three main factions, and you get that through three characters' point of view: Tyrion, Alea, and Valyrian. Tyrion is a chancellor of the Council of High Lords. Alea is a sister of Silence. Valyrian is a member of the Custodians. And as we follow him through his storyline, we get a better sense of where the Custodians are in this point of time. They've been resigned to stay on Terra. They're no longer allowed to leave and fight out amongst the stars, and I think they're all battling with that in one way or another, and you really get a sense of that through Valyrian's mind. They live and die for the Emperor, obviously, and they're there to stay on Terra and protect him, but at the same time, you get the sense that they all feel like they would be much better served out on the front lines, fighting chaos and being involved in the various crusades that are going on in this point in time. There's a sense that like these Custodians haven't really gotten a lot of action in the past 10,000 years. There's a question of like maybe how equipped they are to defend the Emperor throughout the book, but as you'll see later on in the novel, as things start to ramp up, there's no question of how powerful the Custodians are, and I think Chris Wraight does a great job of writing action scenes. The action scenes are just fantastic in this book. As we follow Tyrion, we get to learn a lot more about the 12 High Lords of Terra and the different political battles that are going on at this point in time on Terra. It's something I knew was going on in the background of various 40k storylines. You know that there has to be some sort of political battle going on in the background, but you never really hear that many details, at least not in the books that I've read. You don't get a lot of detail in regards to like how these decisions are made about where to deploy forces and where to deploy resources. But in this book, you get a lot more background regarding how that works on Terra and who is making those decisions. I think what you realize is that all of these High Lords are trying to defend humanity, are trying to make the best choices for Terra and the Imperium, but they're also all battling against each other and trying to achieve their own political goals. And it's just a fun like side plot to the whole main storyline of these books, I think. In this era of the Imperium, the Sisters of Silence have kind of been forgotten about. They've been irrelevant for a number of years, probably hundreds, if not thousands of years at this point. the order has been fragmented and split into these various enclaves, and that's actually where the book starts. Is you start with this one enclave where Aleya is found, our main Sister of Silence character. The book starts with one of these enclaves, and that's where we find Aleya, who is the main character representing the Sister of Silence in these novels. She's following an investigation regarding various chaos cults. And through that investigation, she discovers some information, which I don't want to give any spoilers about what she finds in particular, but she finds some very important information, and that kind of starts this journey back to Terra. And once she gets there, she realizes that Terra's maybe not exactly what she thought it might be. She's definitely not being respected as she thinks she should be. There's a lot of anger and angst in her character, and you really feel that through Chris Wright's writing. Aleya's storyline is really about her proving herself and establishing that the Sisters of Silence have a major role to play in the defense of the Imperium. Overall, I really enjoyed this book, but there are a couple things I didn't like. One of those things is I felt like you never really got a perspective from the enemy's point of view. You're pretty much following these three characters the entire time, and you never get a POV from the chaos side of things. So as the main battle starts to unroll later on in the book, I wasn't Chris Wright does a great job of describing it and building up how important this battle is, but I didn't have any details about the army itself, so I wasn't super scared for the custodians or the palace. I wasn't entirely worried that they were going to accomplish anything serious, but I think that's just because I haven't read enough 40k books yet. I haven't read any books regarding the breach of the Cadian Gate, which I think if I had read those books, this battle would have felt much more impactful to me, because I know that there's a total other side to the story that's written about endlessly in other novels. So that was my critique, but I don't think that is... If you've read more of 40k lore, you might have a better understanding of what was going on there. It is also a pretty short novel. It's only 288 pages. I think the audiobook was around 10 hours, so it's not like there was a ton of build up to the ending, which I think is okay. I felt like the story flowed all the way through, but for such a momentous finale, I felt like there could have been more fleshing out going on. We kind of just like once the final battle starts, it kind of just starts to go one key action point after another, which again, not a huge issue, but I love a giant thick book, so like not it wouldn't have been a problem for me to read another 200 pages of this, honestly. But despite the flaws of the story, I thought this book was great. I gave it an 8 out of 10 overall. For 40k fans, this is definitely a must read. There's a ton of great lore in here that you get to explore that you don't really find in other 40k books. I've now read book 1 and book 2. I will do a review on book 2 soon. If you enjoyed the video, please throw a like down below, and I'll see you in the next book review.